Welcome to today's deep dive, where we'll be looking into something kind of overshadowed by, all the holiday cheer, loneliness,
Yeah.
especially for older folks.
It is interesting how, amidst the celebrations, we often don't see that for many, the holidays can actually make feelings of isolation even worse.
Exactly. We're basing this deep dive on an article that shines a light on this. It focuses on Age UK and what they're doing to combat loneliness among seniors, especially around Christmas.
It's definitely something we should be paying attention to, especially considering the stats in this article. They estimate that around 590,000 people over 65 in the UK will be by themselves on Christmas Day.
Wow, that's a lot. And the article also mentions that 1.4 million older adults will eat Christmas dinner alone. So while we often think of the holidays as a time for togetherness, the reality is different for many.
Absolutely. And you're right, those feelings of isolation can get even stronger during the holidays. All those expectations of family and holiday cheer can really make loneliness feel that much worse.
This article shares the story of Rose Hayes, a widow who is facing her first Christmas without her husband. It's touching how she talks about simple traditions like buying the Christmas turkey becoming these painful reminders of his absence.
It's those everyday things that get so tied to our memories and emotions, especially during times like the holidays.
Rose even says he always used to buy the turkey. That used to be his Christmas present. It just goes to show that even with loved ones, around the holidays can bring up a mix of emotions, especially for those dealing with loss.
It's important to acknowledge that the holidays aren't always happy and that grief and loneliness can be intertwined. While we tend to focus on celebrations, we can't forget that for many it's a tough time.
The article then talks about how Rose finds some comfort by attending a festive sing-along at a local church, an event put on by Age UK. It sounds like these types of events can really help people feel less lonely.
They absolutely can. They provide a sense of community and belonging, a space for people to connect and enjoy themselves.
It's almost like a little pocket of warmth and connection in what can be a very isolating time for some. And speaking of connection, the article introduces us to Jenny Horsford, a 79-year-old who volunteers with Age UK.
Jenny's story is so inspiring. She cared for her husband in Grenada for over 20 years before coming back to England to care for her mother. Talk about a huge life change.
And after going through all that, she found support from Age UK. She describes it as a really difficult time, but says that Age UK helped her find her feet.
It's really incredible how even after all that loss and change, Jenny was able to find a new sense of purpose and connection by helping others. Her story highlights that we can be resilient and grow even in tough times.
It just shows you how helping others can be a real remedy for loneliness. It's like this ripple effect of kindness that spreads outwards.
Absolutely, it's a win-win. When we give back to others and our communities, we benefit them and ourselves.
Jenny's story really resonated with me. She said, they were the ones who just sort of guided me through everything. And now she's the one guiding and supporting others, volunteering not only with Age UK, but with local dementia support groups. It's like paying it forward in the best possible way.
It reminds us that we can all make a positive impact on others' lives. And sometimes even small acts of kindness can make a big difference.
The article also features insights from Fiona Cronin, the well-being manager at Age UK Barnet. She really stresses how important communication is in fighting loneliness.
That's so true. Often people feel lonely because they're not communicating. They suffer in silence, feeling isolated and alone with their thoughts and feelings.
Fiona even says if they just reached out to each other, we'd probably have a big impact on reducing social isolation. It's a reminder that sometimes all it takes to make a difference is a simple gesture of reaching out.
It's all about breaking down those walls of isolation and making space for real connection. It begins by acknowledging that loneliness is something we all experience at some point.
Fiona makes a really sobering point. It's sobering to think that 1 in 10 older people will be alone on Christmas Day. That stat really hit me hard.
It's definitely something to think about. But Fiona also offers practical advice on what we can do about it. She says we shouldn't put all the emphasis on Christmas Day itself.
Right. It's about spreading out those festivities and connecting with people throughout the whole holiday season. Fiona even suggests thinking about volunteering as a New Year's resolution, which I think is a great idea.
That's a fantastic way to address loneliness, not just for yourself, but for the people you're helping too. It's about continuing that ripple effect of kindness and connection beyond the holidays and into the new year.
And it doesn't even have to be a huge commitment. Even small gestures can make a big difference. Fiona suggests just reaching out to someone who might be isolated, maybe giving them a call or a video chat.
It's a good reminder that we all have the power to make someone's day. And sometimes that just starts with a simple act of kindness and connection.
So as we dive deeper into this topic, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on
How we can move beyond just knowing about loneliness and actually do something about it. We've heard those stories and statistics, but what does a more caring and connected society actually look like, especially for older people?
That's a really good question. It seems like the article points to community initiatives and support systems as being really key.
Absolutely. Organizations like Age UK are so important in providing services and programs that help fight loneliness and isolation.
The article mentions that they host tons of events throughout December, offering chances for people to connect and find support. It's like they're creating these little havens of warmth and celebration, especially for those feeling isolated during the holidays.
It's interesting how those events go beyond just providing a meal or a place to be. They really work on fostering a sense of community purpose and joy.
Exactly. It's all about reminding people that they're not alone, that they're valued, and that they still have so much to give. But like you said earlier, loneliness isn't just a holiday thing. It's something people deal with all year round.
Right. Exactly. While it might feel stronger during the holidays, a lot of older adults struggle with it daily.
So how do we deal with this beyond December? It feels like we need long-term solutions, not just temporary fixes.
That's where the idea of having a supportive system all year comes in. We have to think about how to maintain those connections and support beyond just the holidays.
Like Age UK's Silverline helpline. It's there 365 days a year, ready to listen to anyone who needs it.
Exactly. It's a lifeline for those who are feeling isolated or overwhelmed. It's a reminder that even when you feel alone, someone out there cares.
It's like they say, a problem shared is a problem halved. Just knowing you can talk to someone who understands can really make all the difference.
It's about creating a space for vulnerability, empathy, and human connection. And a reminder that we can all support each other, not just during the holidays, but all the time.
But as we talk about supporting others, it's important to remember that loneliness isn't always about being physically alone. Sometimes you can be around people and still feel deeply lonely.
That's a really important point. Loneliness is subjective. It's about feeling disconnected, unseen, and unheard, no matter who's around you.
That makes it even more important to build real connections, to nurture relationships, and to pay attention to the emotional well-being of those around us. It's not just about being there physically, but emotionally too.
Absolutely. It's about fostering a culture of empathy, compassion, and understanding. It's about recognizing that we're all in this together, and that even when we feel lonely, we're never truly alone.
So how do we fight that feeling of loneliness, not just in others, but in ourselves? It seems like there's an internal aspect to this as well.
You're absolutely right. While we've talked about practical steps like reaching out, volunteering, and supporting groups like Age UK, there's also inner work that needs to be done.
Here's where it gets really interesting. What do you mean by inner work?
It's about finding a connection within ourselves, understanding our own needs, taking care of our well-being, and finding ways to feel grounded and connected, even when we're alone.
I like that. It's like you can't pour from an empty cup if we're not taking care of ourselves. It's tough to be there for others.
Exactly. This inner work can be anything from practicing mindfulness to doing something creative to spending time in nature or connecting with our spiritual side. Anything that brings us peace and wholeness.
It's realizing that our relationship with ourselves is the basis for all our other relationships. When we feel connected to ourselves, we're more likely to feel connected to the world around us.
It's this beautiful journey of self-discovery, self-compassion, and self-love. And I think it's something we can all explore, regardless of our age or situation.
As we talk about this self-connection, I can't help but think about how purpose and meaning can help fight loneliness. It's like when we have something that inspires us, something we're passionate about, it gives us direction and a sense of belonging.
You're right. Purpose and meaning are essential for a fulfilling life, and they can be powerful tools against loneliness. When we feel like we're contributing to something bigger than ourselves, when we have goals that make us feel passionate, it creates a sense of connection and purpose that can help us through those tough times.
And those passions and purposes can change over time, right? It's not like we're born with a set path. It's about being open to new experiences, finding new interests, and letting ourselves grow and change. That's so true. Life is all about learning, exploring, and growing. And yeah, it's never too late to find new passions, new meaning, and make a life that feels both purposeful and connected. But how do we do that, especially as we get older? It feels like society often tells us we're less valuable as we age.
That's a really important point. You often hear that aging equals decline. But what if we looked at it differently? What if instead of seeing it as slowing down, we saw it as a chance to reinvent and rediscover ourselves?
That's a powerful way to look at it. It's like flipping the script and seeing aging as full of possibilities instead of limitations. And it reminds me of Jenny Horsford's story. At 79, she's not just getting by, she's thriving. She's found purpose and joy in volunteering, being part of her community, and constantly growing and learning.
Exactly. Jenny's story shows us that it's never too late to find your purpose, make a difference, and have a life filled with meaning and connection. Aging comes with challenges, sure, but it also brings experience, wisdom, and resilience.
It's like we've been programmed to think aging is all downhill, but what if it's a chance for an even better, more fulfilling chapter in life? But going back to fighting loneliness, especially around the holidays, part of me wonders if it's right to expect older adults to be the ones reaching out. What if they're not in a place to be the helpers?
You bring up a great point. While it's wonderful when people find comfort and purpose in helping others, we can't expect that from everyone, especially those already struggling with loneliness and isolation. Putting the burden of reaching out solely on them doesn't really solve the problem.
Right. It feels wrong to say, hey, you're lonely, go help someone else. It's like we're missing something.
We need a system where reaching out is encouraged and made easier, not just expected. Remember Fiona Cronin talking about communication? It's not enough to just say, reach out. We need to create real ways for people to connect that go beyond individual effort.
So it's more about building a culture of connection rather than just telling people to do it themselves.
Exactly. And that means changing how society views and interacts with older adults.
Mm-hmm.
What if instead of putting them in senior centers, we included them more in our communities?
Like the Events Age UK does, but all year round, not just in December.
Exactly. Think beyond the holidays. What if community centers, libraries, even businesses became places where people of all ages could interact all year?
I love that idea. Spaces where people naturally come together, regardless of age, breaking down those barriers between generations.
Imagine a weekly Tech Tuesdays where teenagers help older adults with their phones, or a community garden project connecting different generations through shared activities. The possibilities are endless.
Those are great examples. And it shifts the focus from helping the elderly to appreciating the skills and wisdom they have to offer, building genuine connections in the process. Everyone wins.
And importantly, it shifts responsibility from the individual to the community. Loneliness isn't just a personal problem, it's a societal one that needs a collective solution. It's about making a culture where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued, no matter how old they are.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to how complex loneliness is, especially for older folks. It's not just about being alone, it's about feeling disconnected, unseen, and unheard. And it's about recognizing that we all have a part to play in making a more caring and connected society. So, as we wrap up our exploration of this topic, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
One of the most important things to remember is that loneliness, especially among older adults, is a serious issue that needs our attention and action.
Yeah.
It doesn't just go away after the holidays.
Right, it takes ongoing awareness and effort. And it sounds like we need to move past traditional senior care models and be more creative about how we build intergenerational connections and create a society where older adults feel truly valued and included.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the unique strengths and perspectives that older adults bring to our communities and creating spaces where those strengths can shine. And it's about challenging those ageist ideas that can lead to isolation and loneliness.
So, to our listeners, we encourage you to think about what we've talked about today and how you can help create a more connected and compassionate community. Maybe it's reaching out to an elderly neighbor, volunteering your time at a local organization, or supporting policies that help older adults.
And remember, even small acts of kindness can make a huge difference. A quick phone call, a friendly visit, a listening ear. Those things can really brighten someone's day and help them feel connected.
Well said. And as we close up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one last thought. As we go about our busy lives, let's be mindful of those around us, especially those who might be feeling invisible or forgotten. Let's build a culture of empathy, kindness, and connection, not just during the holidays, but all year round. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together.